It's all getting a little bit tense at the One Call Stadium, but can the Stags take some accountability and some responsibility? It's even getting that bad that we've even changed the theme tune. Defeat at home to Lincoln City in midweek leaves the Stags in danger. 9 points from the bottom four now. Oh my word, they have crashed. Can they turn things around? Can they find a way forward? Or will it be another defeat as the documentary and Hollywood crew come to town on the Sabbath? Who needs to stand up and take some responsibility? Who needs to take some accountability for what's going wrong? Do the Stags need a meeting with Mansfield District Council to put in some planning permission for a new injury ward? Can they find a way forward? Can they register a shot on target? And can this doom and gloom turn into something positive? Tonight, here on the Mansfield Matters Podcast, we'll try and answer all of those questions and invite you to have your say on your team. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. Good evening and welcome to the Mansfield Matters Podcast. It's the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield always matters, win, lose or draw. It has been a difficult week yet again for the Stags, from 3-1 up and coasting at the Seaside on Saturday to walking home disappointed and empty-handed once again at home to Lincoln City in midweek. Let's first and foremost introduce you to the panel who are going to be having their say on their team tonight. First and foremost, let's go to the man whose wife saw me out of their living room window on Monday and sent me a very nice text saying, once you finish work, why don't you pop round for a cup of tea? It's Mr. Alan Wilson. Evening, Al.
Good evening, Craig. Good evening, everybody.
Let's say hello to the man who has been in consultation with Mansfield District Council, in consultation with some planning permission for a brand new shirts emporium. It's Nick of Mansfield Town Shirts fame.
Hello, Craig. Hello, everyone. And
the man who took bringing home 3 points so seriously, he decided to make a speed camera clash. It's Clive Parkin. Evening, Clive.
Good evening, Craig. Hello, everybody. I'm just about recovering.
Anything through the post yet?
Not yet, but I think the letterbox is going to rattle in the next 2 days.
We'll talk more about that.
It's coming.
It certainly is. We're going to talk more about that shortly indeed. Let's see if the old phone thing works. Hello, James. Are you there? He's probably not there, is he? He's not there. I need to restart my phone. It always does that. That's so annoying. Right, let's delve into everything Stags related, shall we? And that is by starting with something a little bit positive, Nick. Let's recap, in your view, the away day at Blackpool before we get into all the negativity and all the stuff which has happened over the last week or so. Let's talk all things Blackpool, shall we?
We had a fantastic game of adult-sized Connect 4 with a basketball, which we thoroughly enjoyed. That was, I think, the day peaked there, to be perfectly honest. If we're concentrating just on the football, thought great start. First 20 minutes, played really well. Then they had the audacity to shoot in the general direction of the goal, and our little fella there didn't keep it out. But then I thought we showed more character in the next 60 minutes after that than we had done for a long, long time. I thought we had some urgency. We passed the ball forward. We had players who had off days previously really picking up the pace. Bacchus, for example, thought Vickers looked dangerous. Aikens, man of the match performance. But then you missed that chance of 4-1, and all of a sudden we all went, oh, we're probably not going to win now. And I think the players felt exactly the same. And you know, we could have lost that in the end. But positives were we played fantastic for 60 minutes and didn't lose.
Certainly did. There he is. Delayed reaction. Hello, Jim.
Phone a friend.
Hi, you're up.
All good, mate. We're all live on the podcast, so we've now got almost a full quota minus Cam and Nathan, but you are there. So Jim's on the phone as well. We'll come to you in just a second. Good to have you as always. We were just talking about Blackpool, Jim. We're going to come back to that in just a second. Nick, sorry, continue with the
So I thought it was
Blackpool
like
recap.
phone a friend. I'm going to have to ask Jim a question. You got 30 seconds. So I think a lot of positives, which were completely wiped out Tuesday, which I'm sure we'll get to. But on the way home, we weren't negative, were we?
Clive's driving certainly wasn't, was it?
No. Well, we got home in 30 minutes, which from Blackpool is fantastic news. But yeah, we overtook a helicopter at one point. The only worry for me was at the time was that losing that 3-1 lead, could that do more damage than the positives of getting it in the first place? I don't know. But I thought for 60 minutes we played really well, and I thought for a little bit we had the old Stags back. But
Which one do you want to talk about, Clive? Do you want to talk about the 3 points or the 1 point?
Well, I don't want 3 points on my licence, so we'll talk about the 1 point. I enjoyed my trip to Blackpool. I thought there was the highlight was not actually the game in the arcade. I thought the fish and chips followed by the donuts was the highlight. But we played well. As Nick said, we played well in parts. And we should have won it. We didn't win it because of stupidity. But, well, no, that's not fair. Because of the unfortunateness of what seemed to be a very easy goal to have scored. And Nick was right. At that very moment, we said, we can see where this is going to go now. And the only surprise, and it's a pleasant surprise, is we didn't lose 4-3.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Alan, when you saw the result and saw us slip from 3-1 to 3-3, did you think that typifies Mansfield this season, or did you think, great, we've stopped the rot and this actually could be a point in the right direction, to use the oldest footballing cliche on the planet?
You're right, Al.
Silence is golden.
Alan?
Mr. Wilson, are you there?
I think he's frozen.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no.
I thought
Oh, bloody hell.
There he is.
Craig.
I'm free.
I do apologise. I thought you
He thought it was another
were still
Mr. Wilson.
talking
We
to
were
Clough. I
so
didn't hear
sorry.
the Alan bit.
Are you free,
Anyway,
Mr. Granger?
3-3 ended up positive opinion. All right. Something to go there. Yeah, they played rather well. It was like the old Mansfield. But once Maris did miss that sitter, I felt the same. I said that to Jeanette. I says, I can see us losing this. We're not going to win it. And obviously that's what's happened in the end. But Tuesday night, the first 20 minutes, half an hour, not a problem. I thought we were okay. But it was the rest of it that sunk to disappointment again. But, it is what it is. We are Mansfield fans.
I'd say it was quite a positive Saturday for you, Alan, because you got something to suck on, didn't you?
I certainly did. Yeah, I had a lovely bag of rock from Mansfield Matters away travel crew. And it was very,
We actually found some rock with Alan's name through the middle.
Very nice, thank you.
Yeah, we did indeed.
I know.
Jim, I'm going to come to you.
Jim,
I'm going to come. Jim, I'm going to come to you. Obviously, it's been a frustrating week or so, hasn't it, for the Stags at the minute? Did you feel like, Alan, that it was going to be a point in the right direction after Blackpool, or did you think in the manner in which we gave the game away from 3-1 up, that it was the writing on the wall that this is typical Mansfield now?
No, I think it's a positive point. We scored 3 goals, and a point's a point away from home, which is always good. And I think after the Blackpool game, everyone was quite buoyant, weren't they? They thought, like Alan said, the old Stag, we're back. So I wasn't too despondent after Blackpool. It was just, I think the Lincoln games knocked everybody for 6 a little bit. But I think we'd like Clough says, we've just got to keep going. We've just got to get these few points we need from somewhere. And it's not going to be pretty, but I think we'll do it. I think we'll be all right this season. And then we need to recruit.
Yeah, so it is all on getting through to the end of the season. As always, we want you guys at home to get involved and have your say on your team. And I'm going to start with this one from Simon Nick. Is it just me that feels like if we are losing the game with 20 minutes to go, we won't score? We really struggle to score late goals in matches, either to grab a point or to win a game. I can't remember the last time we scored a second half goal down the Quarry Lane end.
October was the last time we scored in that goal. I saw it on Twitter.
Was it Birmingham?
Yes,
Birmingham,
Birmingham.
against Birmingham.
Yeah. But I completely agree with I think the fitness isn't there. Maybe due to age, maybe due to they're not training as much because they're worried about injuries. I don't know. But we lose steam, something chronic, 60 minutes on. And the difference that certainly I would noticed on Tuesday is whenever Lincoln went forward, they went forward quickly, and we were always as if we were on the hop and they caught us off guard. Yet when we attacked them with it was so pedestrian that by the time we did attack them, they'd got the whole team back. And all they have to do then is sit back for the last 30 minutes that Simon's alluding to, and we're not going to score. We could have been playing now. We still want to score against Lincoln. It was as bad as it gets, frankly, I thought. But you could add 5 or 6 home games this season where we've needed to score late on, and we just, we don't look like you may as well go home because they're not going to score. But whether that's down to fitness, age, or just not going forward quick enough, I don't know. But I certainly agree we're not very good late on in games.
We're going to come to the injury situation a little bit later on, Clive, but one thing Nick did mention in there is age, and it's been a problem all throughout this season. In fact, it's been a problem / issue / ongoing recurring theme all throughout Nigel Clough's tenure. And because we've kept the same players, we've just grown and grown in that age bracket. I'm looking now at the centre, the back 5 that started the game on Tuesday night. Lucas Akins, 35. George Williams, 31. Elliot Hewitt, 30. Fraser Blake Tracy, 29. Stephen McLaughlin, 34. And the back 4, which finished the game on Tuesday, again, Lucas Akins, 35. Jordan Bowery, 33. Aidan Flint, 35. And Stephen McLaughlin, 34. I think we only had something like 1 or 2 outfield players. Sorry, 4 outfield players under the age of 30 that started on might be 5 on Tuesday night. But again, they're all of that higher bracket, and we only had 1 player who was under the age of 25 in Caelan Vickers. Is it the age factor now which is starting to show? Is that why we can't get through games? Is that why we're more susceptible to injury? Or is it just a Cloughism?
I don't think you can simplify the answer. I think it's a complicated set of circumstances that lead us to where we are now. Clearly, you can't ignore the injury crisis because players that aren't available through injury or illness put pressure on the other players. Some of those other players are at the stage in their lives where they don't have enough energy to compensate for the absence of players that do have pace. And we get caught out too easily. That lack of pace in our team is palpable. Even the young lad who's playing well, Vickers, his batteries die after about 65 minutes. Now, whether that's because he hasn't had as much game time as he would have done normally, I don't know. But the reality is we can't play 2 halves at the moment. If we do well in the first half, we're going to flounder in the second half. If we have a bollocks of a first half, we might just pull ourselves together in the second half. But let's try and find some positives. On Saturday at Blackpool, 2 things that I took comfort from. One was that we managed to overcome a goal down, which is something we've been struggling to do, and the emergence of a certain player that we've not seen much of. And I think it's nice to see him back. We all left guessing as to what the problem was, but certainly it was a big problem to the lad emotionally. And to get him back in the fold is great news. And he played well, but again, he ran out of steam, as you might imagine someone coming back into the game would do. And then you compound all that with the little on Tuesday night with the rash of injuries we had, and the guy on top of that, Fraser Blake Tracy had to hop all the way around the ground to get to the treatment room. I mean, what are we doing? Why have we not got a wheelbarrow? For goodness' sake!
Yeah, that was a laughable.
It seemed perverse to me that the lad was clearly not able to walk, and yet we've got stretcher bearers there who've got one job to do, and they're waiting to do it, and they weren't called upon. Anyway, that's a sidetrack. The issue is we've got an old squad, we've got a squad which is struggling to retain its fitness, and we're injury prone. Put all that in one bucket, and what you've got is Mansfield Town Football Club 2025.
And you've got a massive hole in it as well. The player that Clive was alluding to there, Jim, was, of course, George Williams. And
Sorry, did I not mention his name?
No, it's all right. We all knew who you were on about, though. We're talking George Williams, Jim, and of course, I know you didn't see him on Saturday, although you will have watched the highlights. I know, and he only played 45 minutes against Lincoln, but you can see the difference that he makes in a side and makes in defence. But yet again, it's the curse of the comeback, isn't it? As soon as they come back, they get a bit of an injury knock. It's such a shame because he made such a difference to us, don't you think?
Yeah, he does. I mean, he's obviously him and Fraser Blake Tracy, they haven't played for a bit, and they looked obviously a bit sluggish and not sharp. But what I didn't understand Tuesday is it was against Lincoln, who were a big, strong set piece side, and we picked the most lightweight defence of the season. And why they were so deep, I don't know, with all the pace they had. But anyway, that's going off on a bit of a tangent. But yeah, I mean, George Williams is a good player, but he's another one who's a bit of a sick note, isn't he? Yeah, we just need to get these players fit. Back to the age thing. I mean, you look at the two players that carried us through the first half of the season, being Dave and Gregory. I mean, they're both over 30, aren't they? I mean, they didn't seem to run out of steam past 60 minutes. I don't think it's just a pure age thing. I mean, that just depends on the individual athlete, doesn't it? But I think it's partly the fact that perhaps the tactics, we seem to recycle the ball excessively and try and walk the ball into the net. And I think they just shot of confidence. My overriding feeling at times, and what I felt on Tuesday is, even though it's commendable, I wonder if he's trying to play a brand of football that's a little bit beyond the group of players. They're just not quite good enough to do what he wants to do. And I just think the shot of confidence.
We've called the show tonight, Alan, accountability and responsibility. What accountability and responsibility does Nigel Clough have to play in all this? Because like Jim alluded to there, we've implemented a system, playing the back five or with three centre-backs and wing-backs, which has suited us well when we've had the personnel available. And that is the key thing, when we've had the personnel available. It's no coincidence that since Dave has gone out of the side, we've absolutely plummeted defensively and looked very weak in that system. And yet, Clough still is insistent on playing that style and that system, despite not having the players available to do it, who are A, capable of doing it properly, and B, fit enough to doing it. So with that in mind, Alan, what accountability and responsibility does Nigel Clough have to take with this poor run that we're on?
Well, I think he's got to take a little bit of the blame, but he also takes the good bit, like we had the first half of the season. There was nobody complaining when we're doing really well at the start of the season, but I've noticed we stopped harrowing teams, harassing teams. We did it to an extent against Blackpool on Saturday, where we're rushing them all the time and they were making the mistakes. But I didn't see that against Lincoln. And also, at the end of the match, the last 20 minutes or so, in other matches before, in previous, we've been knocking on the door and just not that final pass. But on Tuesday, it just wasn't in evidence at all. Now, whether that's because of the injuries and the other people coming on, I don't know. Nigel changes it from time to time during the match, but there's something just not quite right and not clicking. Whether it is confidence or whether there's, something else bubbling, who knows?
I'm going to come back to the comments shortly. Keep them coming in and have your say on your team. However, whilst we're on this line of conversation, I've just gone back through our group chat, and there's one man who I'm going to come to now, who might remember sending this after the game. I think it was after the game. And it reads, "That was abject at best. If ever a manager has lost the fight of the dressing room, it's now. And don't get me started on injuries. I'm saving my rants for Thursday." Nick, I believe it's Thursday, so this is your time to rant away.
The thing that bothers me most is that I don't think Clough knows how to solve the situation we're in, and that is my biggest concern. He's took the plaudits all season, and quite rightly, and last season, but at the minute, I don't see. It's like there's systems that we could change to, and it's just the same stuff that you get delivered, and then he comes on afterwards and says that we played really well. I nearly crashed the car on the way home listening to that. I was like, have you just wasted the same 90 minutes that I've just wasted? But I don't know. It's just I don't think his interviews don't come across like they used to. I think if he's lost the confidence, which he seems to have done, How does he turn it round if he doesn't know how? He says, what do we need? We need a bit of luck. Well, that's not how it works, is it? It's quality is going to get us out, not luck. Because Mansfield don't get luck. 30 years of supporting the Stags has taught me that. We don't get luck. We have to fight our way out. And if he's lost a bit of the fight, which, I'm looking outwardly, looking in, he doesn't seem to have the ideas to sort of solve the issue. You look at some of the defeats we've had recently. I mean, Shrewsbury hadn't won for ages. They turned us over. Crawley couldn't buy a win. Northampton couldn't buy a win. Blackpool nearly beat us, and they hadn't won at home since September. Lincoln had won 1 in 7 before they played us. Everyone's saying, it's a great Lincoln side. They'd won 1 in 7 before, 1 in 6 before they played us on Tuesday night.
You've forgotten Cambridge.
Cambridge as well. They couldn't buy a win. They've just sacked the manager because they were hopeless. But we just don't seem to have an identity. We're just meandering on to the end of the season. We played Shrewsbury, and as much as I would absolutely hate to have that style, they had an identity in that second half. It was whenever Stags were on top, waste time, go down injured, regroup, hit the ball over the top, and it worked. We've gone to other grounds, and they've had, Blackpool changed it in the second half. They brought on quick wingers and said, get down the wing, cross the ball. And they got 2 goals within 5 minutes based on that system. We're just meandering into relegation at the minute. We might just have enough points, because we only really need 3 wins. And if we can't win 3 out of 16, there's a problem in there.
I think at the minute, we'll talk about it next.
I can't see where the points are coming from at the minute, Craig.
Yeah.
And that's the concern, is that it's all right. Everybody's saying you can't say about Clough going. And I don't want Clough to go. He's the best manager of my lifetime. But he's got to G himself up. He's got to change something. Does he play young lads? Does he change a different formation? He's just bought Jordan Rhodes. We would dying for a goal and a threat on Tuesday night. He was just sat on the bench watching. We've had Ben Waine for months. No comment made about him. He just sits there taking up a wage, doing nothing. It's just, it doesn't. A lot of things don't make sense. We've got floppy fingers in goal that we could talk about as well, which I'm sure we'll get to. But I don't think he's got the idea of how to get us out of it. And if we do, it'll be more than luck than judgment, in my opinion, the way we're going at the minute.
Where do you sit on it, Alan? Because at the minute, I'm very much with splinters, because on one hand, I look through the list of injuries. George Williams, hamstring, not fully fit anyway. Elliot Hewitt, hamstring. Bailey Cargill, calf. Fraser Blake Tracy, knee. Dave, he's been out for a while. Matty Craig, Rhys Oates, Lee Gregory, Alfie Kilgore, not fully fixed. He's not had a pre-season. George Maris can blow hot and cold in terms of his fitness. Lucas Akins, rib injury as well, which we're picking up as well. And then you add into that. So there's your injuries. Then on the other side of the pendulum, you're thinking, right, well, we've got other players within the squad to mix it up. Nick just mentioned a couple of them there. Ben Waine, we got on a loan. He's an international striker. Yet for us, he's not fit enough to put the shirts on the coat hangers, let alone put a shirt on his back. Ben Quinn, obviously, young raw talent, has obviously got the Quinn gene pool, etc., but doesn't seem to get a look in. So he's got some options there, but doesn't seem to utilise them. Jordan Rhodes, another one which Nick mentioned there. So he's got the options, but he doesn't tend to use them. So is it Clough's stubbornness to not mix it up and to not deviate from the plan, or is it the injuries which are impacting on us? And which way do you go out of those two in terms of defending him or putting him under the spotlight to say, take some responsibility?
Well, I think there's 2 ways you can look at it. Once the injuries that we've had, from Tuesday night, that's going to make a big hole in our defence on Saturday. So he's got to do something there, hasn't he? Whether it's Kilgore and Flint together, whether Barry plays there, whether McLaughlin plays there, they're going to have to sort something out. So it'll sort that side of it out when he's got to play people off the bench that wouldn't normally be playing. But I think it'll sort itself out with the way he plays, once the game's started and he can see how the game's going. Because if they've got fast wingers or whatever, we might be struggling again. I mean, we know what Wrexham are like. They'll just fight tooth and nail, and they're a very physical side, aren't they? So it all depends on the day, I think, on what 11 first turn out, Craig, to answer that question.
Jim, same point to you. Is it excusable because of the amount of injuries that we've got, or is it inexcusable due to his stubbornness?
I don't think you could blame injuries. You go around every squad in the league, they'll have injuries. That's why you have a squad. And if we haven't learned from the pre-seasons, then we need to blame ourselves there. I think we need to be thinking a bit more out the box with it. I heard a comment on Tuesday night which sort of stuck in my head, and it was, you look at any manager. Someone said after 3 years, apparently there's a stat going around that after 3 years, the same manager will fail, or his effect to be able to motivate the same group of players will be less. Now, you think about it, the best managers in the game, I know this is a Stags podcast, but Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola this season, they hit a sort of a plateau, and then after that, they seem to be less effective. They struggle to motivate the same group of players. So I wonder, I mean, he's been with us 5 years this year. I wonder if it's a bit of subconsciously the same messages, even if they're the right ones, but with the same voice, you can't change that. It's not got the same effect anymore. I don't know if it's a bit of that. And then at the same time, when you go on a bit of a losing run as well, confidence is really low as well. I'm not having the injury thing, like I say, but I think it might be a bit of that. I know we've regularly spoke about it. We can't avoid the elephant in the room that we often say, don't we, Craig, that it does feel like they've ran the course a little bit, certainly with this group of players under him. So I think it's more of that. I think the shelf life, the relationship of the team and the manager in this particular team is wearing thin.
Do you think there's a point in there, Clive, from what Jim's making, especially when you look at some of the ways in which Nigel Clough handles press? He's not backwards in coming forwards when it comes to, in my opinion, throwing players under the bus. He's outed Callum McDonald for not closing down CJ, and he will continue to stick down that line. He did it previously with Elliot Hewitt in previous seasons. And then to make a comment after the game, after the Lincoln game, which went along the lines of, we were seriously lacking in quality of defenders. If I'm Alfie Kilgore, if I'm Callum McDonald, if I'm Aidan Flint, who were all on the bench or weren't involved on Tuesday night, that doesn't inspire me. Do you know what that makes me want to do? Makes me not want to care. It makes me not want to try. It makes me not want to play for him. It makes me want to go up to him and say, do you know what? You, my friend, can absolutely off.
I think motivating players is an art and a skill, and it's something that you should get better at with experience. So he ought to be on his job there. I think Jim's hit on a bit of a point in that there is a curve on the chart that says you reach your optimum, but you very quickly go back over the other side and start to lose it again. There are exceptions. Ferguson seemed to cling on for a long time, didn't he? And what have you. But I think the reality is, whatever Clough says after the game is not going to elucidate anything, because he doesn't. It's a politic. He'll tell you what he wants to put out there. He'll criticise the odd player, which I don't agree with. Never have done, by the way. You criticise your players in the change room, not in front of a microphone. But the one player he hasn't criticised at all is goalkeeper. And with the best will in the world, Pim has had a rum old run, hasn't he? He's been culpable on several occasions. I'm not destroying the lad. He's been a great goalkeeper, still is a good goalkeeper, and he's actually earned his points during the time he's been with us. But his recent form is abysmal, and we've got a better option on the bench. It's the one area in the squad where we've got cover that's fit, and we're not deploying it. But just to finish off, I'm going to criticise Clough and his team, Andy Garner et al., is that what did we know about Lincoln? What did they know about Lincoln before the game? They know that Lincoln were a danger with crosses and corners and high balls across the face of the goal. What did they know about us? They know that we're weak in that area. They know we've got a goalkeeper that's 6 inches too short. What did they do? Exploited that situation. Were we not prepared for it? Did we not have a training session just to defend those situations? And if we did, why aren't the players doing it? And if you know that, why have you got 2 tall central defenders on the bench, to pick up your point? So I think you're right. I think those decisions are difficult to understand from a lay point of view. I bet they're as equally difficult to understand from a professional footballer's point of view. And if you're the professional footballer that is getting stripped and not getting the game, and you're a central defender and the defence is struggling, you're going to say, well, that's what the club thinks about me.
I think one of those players potentially might have said it, although maybe I'm just pouring petrol on the fire a little bit, by liking a certain former Mansfield Town player's post about scoring a goal, or more particular, that goal against us on Tuesday night. That was not a wise move. Anyway,
I think we're reading too much into that.
No, I'm just stirring the pot. I'm going to continue to move on. I want to talk about the goalkeeping situation. Alan, what do you make of it? Because Clive is right in what he says. Any outfield player that was performing in that way would be rotated, would be dropped, would be rested. Christy Pym, though, as much as he has, been a match winner for us in the past, perhaps could do with that little bit of a shake-up and that little bit of a rest, especially when we're being put under pressure with balls in the box, which is what teams are doing to us at the moment. However, Christy Pym could be caught in Nigel Clough's living room with his wife. He could nick all of his money, rob all of his bank cards, clear out his bank accounts, and still get in the side on Saturday afternoon. That man is undroppable if you are Nigel Clough. Am I wrong?
Well, we'll see, won't we? Only Saturday. Only Saturday. No, I don't think you're
Sunday.
right.
Don't go on Saturday, Alan. Don't
You
go
go
on Saturday.
you have nothing to do.
I don't think you're right in that one, Craig. If he thinks he's worth dropping, he will drop him, I'm sure, for the good of the team. And I think it might need a rest, because 3 lobbing goals have happened now against Lincoln, 2 at their ground, 1 at this ground. And it might be time for a rest. Flinders has never let us down. Nigel's said that many times before. He hasn't got a problem putting in. So we'll see what happens on Saturday.
I'll tell you what will happen on Saturday. Nothing. I'll tell you what will happen on Sunday. Christy Pym will be in goal, because Nigel Clough's the most stubborn man on the planet, and we could be conceding 10 goals every week. Christy Pym could be getting his ding dong out and waving it at the opposition fans, running down the touchline showing his bare arse, taking a poo on Nigel Clough's carpet, and he'll still get in the bloody team. Shocking. Untouchable, that man. Anyway, let's go to some comments.
You're a big fan of Pym's, aren't you, Craig?
I think he's a superb servant for us. I'll give an honest answer. Superb servant for us. And he has won his games and saved us penalties and been a key player for us. But like an outfield player, when you don't perform, you deserve to be dropped from your position. Because, players like Callum McDonald, for example, comes in, makes a mistake, gets ousted for it. Christy Pym, absolutely nothing. It's, unlucky Christy. Wrapped up in cotton wool.
Fluke goals.
Pathetic.
Fluke goals. That's what they are. when they go past Pym into the top corner, they're fluke goals. Who scores direct from corners at this level of football?
Anyone that's taking a corner when you're facing Christy Pym.
Anyway, let's not crucify the lad. He's having a bad time. No question about that.
If you don't know, I'm joking by now.
If a player loses form or confidence or both for whatever reason, any manager would replace them if they got someone to replace them with, and that's the question that hangs in the air, isn't it?
I guarantee it'll be one question that somebody asks next week at the fans forum if that doesn't mysteriously get cancelled on Monday.
They'll be after Owen Mason. That'll be the first question. That's on our bingo card, isn't it?
When's Owen Mason going to play a game? He's been called back. He's been called back to play him. Can I come on the team, boss? Anyway, moving on.
We're looking forward to Sunday, aren't we?
Very much so. Keep your comments coming and have your say on your team. Alan, are you looking forward to Sunday? You're going on Saturday?
No, I'm going to make the effort and go Sunday, I think.
Well done, my friend. Jim, when are you going, Saturday or Sunday?
Sunday, I think.
Yeah, good choice.
It'll be Monday for Jim.
Good choice. Keep your comments coming in, having your say on your team. Apologies if I've missed a few or we've already gone over that point. Andy says, I'm a big Clough fan. However, I felt on Tuesday we continued to be too compact when we were losing. In my opinion, we should have tried to stretch the game. Also, we are playing against better players with the core squad that are League 2 level. What do you make of that, Jim?
Well, I think they are League 1 players. I mean, the first half of the season proved that. I think, like I said before, I think Dave and Gregory carried us somewhat, and that was a bit perhaps understated. I think there's more to it than that. I think the squad's good enough. I think the tactics are perhaps too over elaborate at times. Be more pragmatic, and there's just totally shot of confidence. There's no. See, Nick alluded to it as well. There's no plan B when things aren't working. There's no sort of go-to plan B, and it's just all so predictable. And he's got. For me, I'm still. I wouldn't sack him. I wouldn't sack Clough. I don't think that's the answer. But he's got to change something. Be it formation, be it tactics, be it personnel somewhere. Or something. He's got to give the lads something new to believe in, or just even to believe in something new. Because at the moment, it looks to me like they've lost belief in what they're trying to do, and that really is worrying if they've lost belief.
Keep your comments coming in. Have your say on your team. Jim's just mentioned something where I wasn't going to go there, but I am going to go there in just a minute after we've got some of these more comments out of the way. Simon says, injury crisis season after season really needs investigating. Players too old / injury prone, overtraining, rushing players back. There's definitely an element of the latter, Clive, isn't there? Rushing players back. Fraser Blake Tracy came from nowhere to start on Tuesday, albeit it wouldn't have started if Cargill would have been available. He would have been on the bench. We could potentially end up in the same situation with Dave.
I think it's happening because the manager's got very little choice. He's not got the latitude of saying, I'll give you a bit longer because I've got someone else that can do the job as well as you do. He hasn't got that at the moment. So inevitably, when you get the Hewitts of the world coming back, you want to take a chance your arm with them. The reality is these players are not fit enough to do 90 minutes. And in pushing themselves into an aggressive field of conflict, which is what football is, you're going to pick up a cheap injury. And that's what's happened now half a dozen times this season. I can't remember how many times last year. So short of having a bigger squad or choosing younger, more durable players, I don't know what the solution is. We need a bit of luck. We don't get a great deal of luck at Field Mill at the moment. But it just seems to me, and I've said it before, tongue in cheek, you take a good player from another club, you bring him to Mansfield to injure him.
Certainly seems the way, doesn't it?
Now, send your players to Mansfield, get them injured.
Certainly seems the way. Mansfield Town Football Club, sponsored by Casualty. Gary says, every team we play at home, the away sides move the ball much quicker than we do. Thus, we have to run and run and run to cover their pace going forward. Too many old players bringing the injured players back too soon could be a factor, says Paul. I've done that one. Big overhaul needed in the summer, says Melvin. Pace and quality players needed. League Two players not good enough in this league. It's very, very frustrating, isn't it? There is a big overhaul needed in the summer. I'm going to save that for a little bit of a conversation, which I'm going to come to in a minute. I just want to get some more of these comments out of the way. When Ben Waine came on against Blackpool, he was just running around without closing down or having any effects. He also goes down far too easily, says Richard. Too negative at home, says Peter. Far too slow going forward. Get Flinders in goal for Wrexham. Lots of people agreeing with Clive for an earlier comment as well, and me as well for the Pim comment. I expect all players to make mistakes, but it's too many in the past few games. Ad Lee. Squad good enough, really. You're having a laugh. We are far too slow and predictable, I'm afraid. One thing somebody mentioned earlier, I think it was Jim alluded to it, Nick, was that of Nigel Clough and the four-letter word, which is sack. It's been a big debate over social media over the last few days. And given the run we're on, it's understandable why, first and foremost.
I think you'd be naive to not allow that conversation. There's a lot of gatekeepers on social media, especially, who would suggest you're not a Stags fan for even thinking of the word sack. But if you talk about no winning 9, then before that, we won 4, but before that we lost 5 in a row. It has to be, it will be in the thoughts of the Radfords. I don't think they'll do it, but it'll be in their head somewhere. I know Carolyn Radford posted a bit of a moan on Instagram yesterday about the team and the performance.
Did she?
I wouldn't sack. Yeah, she did a waggy finger thing. She was tutting and saying Mansfield Town and wagging a finger at the screen.
She needs to keep it shut.
Yeah. I don't know. I really don't feel it's the right thing to do, but you can't deny the conversation, because you lose 8 out of 9 in the manner that we've done against 4 of the bottom 5. Let's not remember, we haven't lost to Birmingham, Wrexham, Wickham. We've lost to the bottom 5, near enough, who couldn't buy a win. Then you have to have the conversation. It has to exist. You can't deny it. Would I do it? Probably not. Is there an outstanding candidate? Maybe Paul Warne. You've got Luke Williams at Swansea. Maybe, I don't know.
The problem is, Nick,
plus
sorry to interrupt into your conversation.
No.
If the decision to relieve the present manager of his post is taken, what chance has anybody else coming in got that's better than Clough's with the existing squad and the condition of the squad that we've got?
Well, not a lot.
The only thing you're left with is motivation.
To pick for.
Yeah, that's
the thing,
the only gambling point.
That's the one thing that is potentially, missing, is that motivation factor at the minute. I don't know. It's very difficult. It's a really difficult situation we find ourselves in because people who are saying you can't talk about it. Well, we're going to get beat on Sunday, more than likely. Okay, you get beat on Sunday. Is it Exeter the following Tuesday, or is that further in the distance?
Exeter the
I can't remember.
Tuesday, yeah.
So Exeter, we don't do very well at Exeter. You could very lose that. Is losing 10 out of 11 sackable form? And then you play Burton. If we lose on Sunday and Tuesday, we could be 6 points off Burton before the game. That's not a place we want to be in as a football club. The conversation's got to be on the table, whether you agree with it or not. The conversation has to be there. I agree with Clive. I don't think anyone's going to come in and suddenly make players fit. But they play different players, I'm sure, and try different things. But, we know with Mansfield, we don't normally get a new manager bounce anyway. But, yeah, the conversation's got to be had whether people like it or not.
Yeah, it certainly has. Fixtures-wise, it's Wrexham up next, then Burton. Wrexham at home, Burton on the 1st of March, then 4th of March, Wigan at home, 8th of March, Stevenage away, and then Exeter on the 11th. For me, I'm going to put it out there and be honest with it. I completely agree with what Nick has been saying there and his comments. You've got to look at that. Yes, you have to have a little look at what he's done previously, and you've got to also look at the injury situation, etc. But I think you've also got to be ruthless in this game and analyse where we are. In that run of 5 defeats before the Christmas period, we were playing well and we were performing, and we were unlucky. There's no debate in that. We were very unlucky in those games to not come away with something, at least a point in each of those games. However, in this run, and we're talking solely about this run now, post Stockport, we have been terrible, absolutely terrible in most of those games. You look at Shrewsbury away, right? Dominating the game. We score a good goal to go 1-0 up. We have opportunities to maybe go 2-0 up. They get a player sent off, and that should really be the catalyst to go on and dominate the game and win well. What do? We don't adapt our system to adapt with their changes, and we absolutely capitulate and we lose 2-1 against 10 men against a relegation rival. Blackpool again. All right, we've gone into that game on the back of some terrible, terrible form. And we get into a good position where we're 3-1 up. We come back from 1-0 down to go 3-1 up. We have opportunities to make it 4-1, squander them, and then we throw the game away. And realistically, we're walking out of Blackpool gutted we've not got 3 points, buzzing with a point, but also knowing that we're lucky to even bring a point away because they probably should have nicked it. Then against Lincoln, tactically, the best side in the division for attacking set pieces, and we don't do the basics, and we don't change our shape, we don't react to it, and we concede 2 goals from set plays, and it should have been more. There's things which have to be accounted for. There's things that someone has to take responsibility for. And I'm going to put it out there now. I don't think we'll get anything against Wrexham, and I'm not expecting us to. That is perhaps where Mansfield Town could come into their own a little bit more and play with freedom because there's no expectation other than defeat on their shoulders. But we lose that game, and then we go into the Burton game and lose that. We are in a whole heap of trouble, and I don't see where we're getting out of it. He's out of contract in the summer, and to be honest, 2 back-to-back defeats, including defeat at Burton. I think we've got to have that conversation. I think he's got to go.
He'll not go before the end of the season.
Jim,
And I don't think.
Jim, what about you?
I personally,
I think no, I wouldn't sack him. No, I'd put something else on the table now. In Clough's defence, we knew this was going to be a step up this season, and you look at the business we did in the summer. The only fee we paid was for Mr. Evans, I believe. Has he been backed enough by the ownership? Has he been backed enough? I would say no.
He's been saying, Jim, in defence all January, I don't need any signings. I'm happy with the squad.
Well,
he said that all January until the last day, and then he changed his mind.
When he threw a wobbly against Shrewsbury, and I think, it's only my opinion, I think it was a dig at the Radfords. I think it was a proper dig at the Radfords to go out and sign someone.
Well, did you hear his comment when he said, "Oh, we like Spurs"? And also, all Spurs fans do is moan at Daniel Levy, isn't it? Their chairman, their ownership. I wonder if that was a sort of disguised dig at the ownership as well. I don't think he's been backed enough. I mean, he's got to sort of toe his employer's line a little bit. He can't just outwardly slag them off. But I think there's little sly digs, and I don't think he's been backed enough, personally.
It's an interesting one because, like Peter says in the comments, appreciate, Jimmy, you can't see these. There's very little sentiment in football. It's all about results. Too much money has been or will be spent on Bishop Street. You have to have success before you start to do projects like that. I'd argue the other way around, that the success was getting promotion out of League Two, and the Bishop Street stand is needed in order to maximise profit and to try and get us a foothold in League One.
You can't criticise the owners for pushing ahead with Bishop Street.
Absolutely
the
not.
entire world has been bleating on about Bishop Street for 5 years. So they're damned if they do and damned if they don't.
But what I was going to say, and I think it's all down to the future. I get that some people will probably look at what I said there about if we lose the next 2 games, then he's got to go. I'm going to stick by it, and I don't want it. I'm not saying that I do want it. I'm just saying that it might have the effect that we need it to have with 12 games to go at that point, maybe 13. I'm not quite sure. You know what my math is like. It might have the effect that we need in terms of dressing room, atmosphere, etc., etc. I don't want it to happen. But also, there's a bigger conversation to be had, and we're going to get some much more clarity on this next Tuesday night, and that is who takes us forward next season. Because if the Radfords are going to back him, Alan, and I think they are, because they want to see success. But also, I appreciate their stance on wanting to make the club self-sufficient. Hence the Bishop Street, hence the tent on the top training pitch, and all the other things that they've put in place over the last couple of years. There will be a pot available, but it'll be a shrewd pot. If they're going to back him to bring in a squad and to bring somebody in, some bodies in, I think Clough will be successful again with us. But then it's the question of, does he want to do it? Does his wife want him to do it? At what point do we go, that's the end of the story, and we move on to elsewhere? How long does this journey continue? Because right now it feels like we're in the last chapter.
Well, at the end of that, I think I said last week, or not last week, so it wasn't on, the week before, whenever it was, that will be up to Nigel at the end of the day, however long Nigel wants to carry on. I firmly believe that Nigel will stay and he will keep us in the division. And at the end of the season, he will have his contacts to get a better squad available to play. Whether Nigel wants that or not, we'll probably, a week on Tuesday or not, or next Tuesday, should I say. I don't know whether, it all depends what questions he gets. There'll probably be some hard-reaching questions against him, and fair play to him for doing it. But I think he'll still be here. I want him to still be here. Yeah, and I think he'll cope. And I think
if he doesn't want to be here next season, you make the decision now. For me, if he's not going to be here next season, with how poor our squad is, we cannot wait for someone else to pick this up in July. If we keep losing matches and he is not going to be here next season, you make the call now and get somebody in who's going to be here next season. For me, because that squad is that poor that he absolutely, for me, you probably need 12, 13, 14 new players next season to really make this a League One squad. If he's not going to be here next season, if he is, then fair play. Give him the money, get rid of the players he doesn't want, and bring in ones he does, and I'll back him to the hilt for that. But if he isn't going to be here because he's wavering a bit, and I might not, I might do, make the decision now. Tell him, You either commit or you go, one of the way or the other. Commit to us and commit to a rebuild, or don't commit at all and go.
And
one thing's for sure.
Sorry. And that comment is exactly why I said what I said about the next 2 games. Exactly that. Because if he's going to go anyway, you give somebody else time to have a look at these players and try and do something with us. Don't drag on the inevitable if you've got no intention of staying past the end of the season. Not when we're in the position that we're in.
It's massive. The rebuild is huge.
Very few managers, in fact, very few employees in the real world tell their employers, "Oh, I think I might be gone next year." You don't have that sort of relationship. Maybe true in Clough's and Radford's case, I don't know. But inevitably, you keep your intentions under your hat, don't you? Because you want to be in control of the circumstance. As soon as you say to somebody, "I've lost interest," then they're going to take decisions on your behalf. Now, I don't think he has lost interest. I think he's struggling a bit. I don't think he'll want to finish his career at Mansfield with a relegation, so he's not going to be. He won't be guilty of not trying to get an improvement. And if he does get an improvement, then the bounce might be he wants another season. I don't know. I can't speak for him. He deserves that opportunity in my book. He doesn't deserve for people to be picking around it now saying we ought to get rid of him, because that's just silly, because we haven't got a viable alternative. In my world, if the Radfords and the management team are doing their job properly, they should have a succession plan. In other words, somebody in the group now who wants to emerge as a would-be manager, perhaps with, well, yeah, maybe that's a good one. But certainly you've got the head coach, the assistant coach, who may not want to throw his career away at the end of this season, simply because Clough and his mentors go in, if that's the case. Andy Garner would make a superb deputy to someone like a Stephen Quinn or somebody. That's planning. And if you think back to his time at Burton, there were succession plans in place. I don't know whether there's one at Mansfield or not. And certainly nobody's going to tell us, are they?
No, but when I'm talking about Clough knowing whether he's going to go, it's not necessarily Clough who needs to tell us. The club should have found out. We should have offered him a contract. Is he? You'll know his intentions from that. They
don't know whether he has or
not
not
offered him a contract. Well, that's what I mean. That's what we're trying to understand. If they've offered him one and he said no, then they know. If they've offered him one and he says, "Yeah, I'll talk about it," then that's fine. But the club should know whether Nigel Clough wants to be here next season or not.
The last time Radford spoke about it, he said the man doesn't need a contract. We have a relationship. He doesn't need a contract. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, indeed, we will. More conversations still to be had. We've had a lot of extra time in the end of the first half. We must have had an injury to at least 3 defenders. Join us in the second half of the show, where conversations will continue. Come and have your say on your team on the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield always matters, even when things aren't going as well as they want to. You're back with the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. Lots of comments coming in. Please do keep them coming. Peter says, in response to the Bishop Street argument, which we were having before the break, if we go down, hope not, probably not get the crowds to fill the ground and Bishop Street will be an empty stand. Should have been spent on bringing players in, maybe. I get the argument to that, Alan. I really do. But if you don't spend the money now on trying to sort the Bishop Street stand out, then when are you going to spend it? And in defence of said Bishop Street, as Sid Pepper has said time and time and time again, is like a broken record with it. It's running into more problems than Nigel Clough has injuries.
And he'll also be there on Tuesday night, won't he, to explain what's going on. You can see work that's being, initiated a little bit further down the line with the bars that's gone in and whatever. You can actually see some work being done. But he's going to be there Tuesday and to explain, what happens further forward from now.
The fact of the matter is about the Bishop Street stand, Nick, in Sid Pepper's head and the original plan that was set out, that stand would now, theoretically on the original plan, be generating income. it was supposed to be a quick job, and fans were supposed to be in it by September, which would have seen an impact financially on the squad or whatever next season or in January. The fact it hasn't happened and more money's had to be pumped into it to get it back to a state of where we want it, I think speaks volumes about how things are going wrong for us this year, Nick.
Probably. I know it's hindsight again, but you could just see it wasn't going to be straightforward. And I think Sid knew that. And I think from his original interview, when he said the easiest way to get capacity in would have been to do the corners. So I imagine that the decision to push on and bodge together what on earth it is they're doing there is not probably Sid's number one suggestion. Being a man of experience, and obviously I'm aware of construction work, you could see it wasn't going to go. It wasn't going to be done in a few months, was it? We all knew they weren't going to have fans in just after Christmas. You could tell. And I imagine that Sid's advice, and he might correct us on Tuesday, would have been just concentrate on the bits that the corners are in your own control. You can build them as quick as you want, in whatever shape you want, and whatever size you want, you can do it. You're in control of it. Refurbishing a stand like that you're not in control of it. The elements of what you would uncover is in control. So I completely disagree that I don't think funds have gone to that instead of players. I don't think that's a thing for a second. And I feel like there'd be more questions if we weren't developing it. So I think that for me is completely a side issue. It kind of sums up the club a bit with the lack of foresight, thinking it wasn't going to have any issues and it was going to be ready. It clearly wasn't. You didn't need any experience to see that it wasn't going to go straight forward. And maybe Sid will enlighten us on Tuesday. But yeah, I completely disagree with anyone saying that that's affected any playing budget. I think they will have put an amount aside that will be enough to cover all these issues. It's just the time, isn't it?
Well, keep your comments sure. Sid's going to have his work cut out on Tuesday night because we're blessed at Mansfield Town with having lots and lots of terrace experts.
Absolutely.
Yes. And they'll know far more about the job than Sid does, and hold him to account.
I don't thank him.
Can I just say that I understand the argument in not spending money on infrastructure when you could do with reinforcing the squad. I think everybody understands that, and it's a balance. If they want to just divert wasted money, in my world, close the academy.
That generates money, then. That generates money.
How does it?
Because we get grants from the Football
it
Foundation.
Costs us money to run. Have you seen how many staff we've got working on the academy? We've got more staff at the academy than we've got on the mainstream football team.
I agree that it's not having an impact on the pitch in terms of development phase.
It's not laid an egg yet.
No, but it does generate money, and it's
there to produce players. At the moment, it isn't producing players, and even if it was, I don't get the impression that Mr. Clough likes the idea of bringing Sproggs into the team.
There it is. That's the point. That's really the point, because it is developing players. And I will guarantee if you speak to any academy coach, they'll go, yeah, there's probably 4 or 5 that could make it. They're just not getting the chance and the opportunity. How many times we've seen it? Keep your comments coming in. Jamie says Nigel Clough will walk at the end of the season. Mark says Clough is not enjoying this and it's showing. I think he'll walk away at the end of the season as well. Donna asks, would you offer any of the current squad a new contract who are due to be out of the contract to the end of the season? Tough one at the minute, because we need to do some research to get the full list of players who are out of contract at the end of the season. Probably one for another discussion at the later on. But I think that boils down to what we were talking about earlier, as well as A, who's going to be the manager, and B, whether or not the finance is going to be there to rebuild said squad. If we can get, I have a feeling that if it's Clough and there's some extension clauses in there, 3 or 4 players that you probably want to move on will get extension clauses just to make sure we've got a squad with versatile experience. Nigel can only work with what? Versatile experience.
Paul O'Grady came back from the dead.
He did, yeah. He did. Nigel can only work with what he has. Bringing some of the younger players in, says Drew. Lee replying to Mark says definitely shows that he's not enjoying it, whereas earlier in the season he seemed to be enjoying it. Michael says, I'm with you, Clive. Great, honest comments. If Clough stays, who will he keep in the current squad, says Paul. Definitely Pim. Absolutely Pim. He can have a contract for life under Clough and play every week. After having conceded 10. What manager is available that you would want to rebuild, says Tom. again, I think we'll probably save this for next week, depending on what Clough says, because I think we'll definitely get some more clarity. What Simon Clough done for us, says Jamie. Recruitment is his job, I guess. All I say, contracts will not be talked about today. Should Nigel stay? Asked Stag's banter page. Well, it's a very loose comment, isn't it? Should he stay?
Probably.
Let's do a quick snap poll on it. Should he stay until the end of the season is the first one we should talk about, regardless of what results come our way. Alan Wilson, yes or no?
Definite, resounding 100% yes.
Clive? Clive?
Sure, he says.
Yes, it will be folly to replace any manager at this point now.
Jim?
Yes.
Keep him, yeah. To the end of the season, for sure, yeah.
Nick?
Because you put the words regardless of results, then no. You can't say, if we lost the next 6, like, what do we do then? Like,
so you sack him, then what happens?
Well, but I don't know.
All you're doing is what lots of fans do, and it's understandable, and I've been there, is because we're disappointed, we get angry, and when we're angry, we want revenge, and the revenge is you sack the manager.
But there's no player going to want to sign for a club that's lost the last 13 games of the season with the manager that's just done it.
The manager's got plenty of credit in his bank.
He has, but but it's running out for me.
I agree with Nick. I'm exactly the same.
I want to keep it. I want him to be here, but you can't say regardless of results because that's just.
I'm going to go around again because that was I put a caveat on about this season. Should Nigel stay post this season? Alan Wilson, yes or no?
Yes, 100%.
Clive?
No, I think it's time.
Jim?
It depends for me what backing he's going to get in the summer because he needs to totally rebuild the team.
Nick?
If he keeps us up, then I would suggest he deserves and has earned another crack or a decision of whether he stays or not. But obviously, if we go down, no.
I'm going to say, regardless, no. I think it's time. Like Clive, I would want him to leave with his head held high, a hero, which he is, a legend, which he is, and I want us to move forward with a younger manager, a younger vision to try and take us to the next step in terms of stabilising as a League One club, in terms of being a top half League One club and pushing towards the playoffs. And I don't think that Clough is the right man to do that long term. I'd be happy at another season, maybe one more season, but again, we're just delaying the inevitable, and we'll get. Of
course, it's inevitable. At some point, he's got to stop being a manager.
Can I just say, Clive? Clive said you wouldn't sack him if we lost like the next 6, but then you wouldn't have him next season.
No, because I don't see any sense in getting rid of a manager or whatever he's doing wrong with half a dozen games of the season left to go, because nobody coming in will do anything better than the outgoing manager. But I do think, picking up on Jim's point earlier, there's a cycle, and we're reaching a point where probably anybody who's been here for as long as Nigel Clough has is reaching the point where you need a refreshment, and they need a career refreshment if they're a younger manager, and the club needs someone with new ideas. That's what I'm saying. I have no problem with Nigel Clough. I think he's fantastic. He has his quirkiness, and there are things that aggravates us about him, but that's true of any manager. I just think everybody has their time. We have it in our careers. Everybody has it. Football, it comes around quicker because of the way that professional football works. And if he did lose his job, and I don't think he'll lose his job because someone else is making that decision, I think Alan's right. It'll be Nigel's own decision when he goes, because that's the arrangement and the relationship he's got with the club. And I've lost my thread now. But the point is, he's had a longer innings than just about anybody else would have had this season because of what he's got in the bank.
Ryan in the comments says, "Who do you want then, Craig, as manager next season?" Then, well, I'll answer it. And And it's not just because of their connections to the club, and certainly not Barker's connection to the club either, or the fact that they're out of work. I've been saying this probably for the last year or so, and if you watch the podcast back or listen to them back at certain points in the show, you will hear me say it, and I've said it to other people in conversation as well. For me, the next logical step forward, other than trying to promote from within, if we are to go with a brand new clean sweep from top to bottom in terms of managerial structure, recruitment structure, Paul Warne, Richie Barker, Matt Hamshaw are the perfect, and their goalkeeping coach, whose name I can't remember, are the perfect.
Arrington, isn't it? Arrington.
Bob, let's call him Bob. Paul Warne, Richie Barker, Matt Hamshaw, and Bob are the perfect collective to come in and to take the football club forward in terms of how we're going to progress as a slow League One burner. We're not going to sign loads of players in the summer and click our fingers in the light bulb moment and get promoted next season. It's not going to happen. The long-term goal with Mansfield Town, once we got promoted, we said it last year, is to stabilise in this division and stay up, which I still think we'll do. Clough, regardless of whether Clough goes in 2 or 3 games' time or whether he stays until the end of the season, we'll have enough about us one way or the other. It'll be bloody ugly. It'll be a horrible dogfight. We'll have more bruises than a boxer that's been absolutely pummeled. We'll get there. We'll get over the line. Of course we will. We're just angry at the minute. Of course we are. But the next logical step is to look at the future and to go, right, let's elevate it to the next level. Paul Warne, Richie Barker, Matt Hamshaw and Bob have got proven experience at this level with not 1 but 2 clubs in terms of stabilising them with a playing squad that ticks over and are competitive in the top half of the table, that can flirt with the playoffs, that can have success in the club in the cups, which, like it or not, that crap cup competition generates money, generates income, and that's exactly what a club like Mansfield Town need to do when we are becoming self-sufficient. Cup runs is a way to generate cash. The Radfords want us to be self-sufficient in terms of income and money, so that's how they'll do it. They'll also develop players that they can sell on for profit to try and push us forward, and will be competitive with it.
And they're probably local as well, Craig.
And they are exactly that. They're local. Of course, we've got this love affair with Richie Barker and Matt Hamshaw. Of course we have. But at the same time, people will also say, well, Nigel Clough can do that. Nigel Clough's done that from League 2 to League 1. I don't think he's capable of doing it from League 1 to the Championship. Let's be honest, with Burton, the work was pretty much done for him in terms of getting them up to the Championship. He just took over and continued the momentum with the Clough factor. So I think it's that. Tom says Warne was with a big club with better facilities and players. No guarantee he could work with our wage budget and setup. I agree to an extent, but that will boil down to whether or not the owners want to go on that journey in terms of progressing us up to a better League One club. I disagree about the facilities. Yes, I think Derby have got this all singing, all dancing, big training ground and a big setup. They're an ex-Premier League club. Of course, they're going to have that. Rotherham perhaps have it. But I think our facilities, we don't go there every single day and we don't see what's happening. Our facilities have made great strides over the last decade or so. And I know that there's plans to enhance the RH Academy even further. More training pitches, more gym facilities, more changing facilities, more sports science facilities, because we're investing in that infrastructure via the academy. Hospital wing. Via, and Clive won't like it, the money which we generate from having an academy. That's how we've managed to continuate this fund.
That comment, though, suggests that we could never get a manager that's ever been anywhere better than Mansfield. How does that work?
Yeah.
Do we have to recruit from Hucknall Town?
Come on, there's no need for that comment.
In awe of the facilities. We have to strive for people who've been at higher and better clubs, because that's how you get better. Lee Gregory didn't come here from Sheffield Wednesday and all of a sudden just implode because he didn't know how to run around on a in a 10,000 seat stadium.
Yeah.
So I disagree with that. I think you have to aim for the stars, I guess, don't you? You have to aim for the best you can get.
And let's be honest, we've got a history of doing it. Let's be completely frank. We've got a history of doing it. Nigel Clough is a name, and was brought in when there was lots of other suitable candidates that could have come in and steadied the ship. Yet we went for it because we wanted long-term development, which delivered. Big Steve, the Scottish fella, the snake, he came in with all the promise. And to be fair, he had an impact on starting this journey forward because he took us from an average League Two mid-table side to a fan base and an ownership that had a bit of belief and a bit of desire to go on and push on. We've generated big names before. We can do it again. I just think they're the right mold because they're a similar setup to how Clough operates on a footballing side of things. But
I think the other thing,
a little
Craig,
bit younger now.
If you're a manager out of work, to see the opportunity at Mansfield, a club that has shown that they have the patience to bear with a manager for 5 years, is an attractive opposition.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're just getting that whirlwind of roundabouts of throwing people off when things don't go wrong after 6 months. It's not good for the club and certainly not good for the manager's career. But I think anybody thinking about coming to Manchester will look back and say, well, how long was the previous manager there? How did they treat him? What was achieved? I think that's a good advertisement for recruitment.
I think the rebuilders as well, the opportunity that we are going to need a lot of players. I think that will attract people. If Clough isn't here, that will attract interest because people are interested in putting their own stamp on things, aren't they? They don't really want to work with somebody else's squad.
And I think the owners have created a reputation of not buying a dog and barking themselves. They'll recruit a manager and then by and large let them get on with it. But certainly did with Clough, although it may well be that Clough is a different sort of manager. But they can't do a hands-on management role as owners because they're not local. They don't live in the country most of the year, and there's nobody on the executive at the club that could run it properly. And that's one of my fears for the club is since our friend, what was his name, that went to the Wigan, David Sharp. I mean, he had a role that would fit between the ownership and the running of the club. I think you really need somebody really good in that position. That's a different conversation for another day. But I think they have a reputation in the footballing world of being good owners.
I'll tell you what,
fans might criticise them for not spending enough of their wealth. I don't know. It's not for me to judge. But
I'm going to throw another thing into that caveat, going back to round that question off about who I want. I want those in as a staffing structure, but also go and get Mickey Moore back as director of football because he knows a player when he spots it. He's done a sterling job with Warsaw when he was there. He's done a good job at Shrewsbury. And if you go back historically to when Adam Murray was in charge, he was behind bringing in some good players on a shoestring tight budget as well. So
I'd have Muzza back.
I would as well, but I don't think. I think he probably wants to. He's very invested in the Eastbourne project at the minute, and it would probably be a too big a jump at the minute. Maybe next time around.
With Andy Garner next to him.
However, he's got Matt Green next to him, so I don't think you want to break that partnership up. However, as it is, this is not a managerial change special, despite what you might think from the last 5 minutes of the show. Nigel Clough is very much the manager, and we continue to back him, as we always, of course, as we do. This is just a podcast. It's a forum for thoughts and comments and opinions. That's exactly why this podcast is here. And talking of forums and chances for opinions, on Tuesday evening at One Call Stadium in the brand new Radford Foundation marquee, which has been put in as part of the ongoing continuation of structure and of the club. We've got an evening with Nigel Clough and, of course, Mr. Sid Pepper. Let's have a little bit of fun then, because in the car, when we weren't getting flashed by speed cameras, Nick, we were coming up with things which will come up on Tuesday night. So I'm going to go around all of the panel, and we're all going to suggest one talking point each, and we're going to play Clough Night Bingo, and we'll see who gets theirs ticked off on next week's show. So, Nick, you're going to go first. You're going to kick us off. What's going to be talked about on Clough Night?
I'm going to sum this up with progression of youngsters, but with an absolute mention of Owen Mason. Somebody there will mention Owen Mason, but it's more around progression of youngsters, which is partly a valid question. Mason is not a valid question, but the progression of youngsters is a valid question.
I've written down progression with youngsters, Owen Mason is what I've written down.
Yes,
Alan.
Correct.
Squad size for next season.
Squad size next.
You could win this,
Really
Alan,
bad.
by asking that question yourself, couldn't you? You could beat the system.
No.
You could just ask the question yourself.
Caveat. You're not allowed to ask
So
these
you
questions
ask that
yourself.
one, I'll ask Owen.
You're not
I'll
allowed
ask
to
Alan.
swap
If he gives me a
questions. You're not
tenner-
allowed to swap
If he gives
questions.
me a tenner, I'll do it.
None of us in this chat are allowed to ask any of these questions which we're coming up with now, and you'll lose all your points.
I won't be
And-
asking a question, don't
And
worry.
it's not happening. Clive,
No.
Is there a single cause for the number of injuries we're having, or do you think it's just bad luck?
cause of injuries
Good
or
question.
plain
Good
bad
question,
Good
Clive.
question.
luck? Jim, over to you.
I'll ask that one.
I think someone will ask about the future of Mr. Oates and Kilgore.
Oh, God,
a
please
distinct-
don't ask about Reece Oates.
I
But they will.
suspect,
You're right, Jim. They absolutely will. Somebody will say about Reece Oates.
I'm gonna
Let him go.
I'm gonna finish it off with two words. Your contract. Your meaning Clough. So there you go. Right. We'll see what happens. We'll
You
be
get
there
the prize there, Craig, for suggesting a question that won't possibly get answered.
Absolutely. Definitely. We'll be there if you want to say hello. I think Alan, you're going, aren't you? You're coming along?
Yeah, I'm going to SSA AGM first, yeah, and then obviously for the Nigel Clough.
Take your
I'll wait.
calculator with you.
I'll wait outside whilst you're all there. Clive, you're going as well. I'm going.
Same as Alan, yeah.
Yeah. So come and
We'll save you a
yeah,
seat.
do. I'll be loitering outside.
I'll wait. Well, I'll be outside with Craig.
All right then, Nick. I'll tell you what. If you're
We'll-
going, do us a favour. Pick
we'll
us up on your way.
I'll pick you up.
We'll save
Nice one,
two
mate.
seats.
I'll get you a biscuit or a cake. You can have an
I don't
exclusive
need a
cake.
biscuit. I'm passing. Don't worry.
Top man. Me and Nick will be loitering outside. We'll be the grinning
And my
children.
dad. My dad will be there.
Ah, Big Tone's going. Yes.
Yeah, he's going.
We've got to see
That's
three
what we need to
seats
put
now.
on
Yeah.
the questions. Ask Nigel Clough and Sid Pepper if they've ever heard of Himalayan pink mountain salt. We're going to ask that. Exclusive question.
They've been
Right.
sniffing it in the changing rooms.
They certainly will. Right, we're going to turn our attention elsewhere because it's time to do this. Podcast predictions. So, can you be the master or an embarrassing disaster? In this guessing game, there's a simple aim. It's outguess the rest and be the best. Win, lose or draw. Do you know the score? Who will be your hero to make sure you don't score zero? Yes, it may be fiction, but this is Podcast Predictions.
Podcast prediction.
Up the podcast predictions, right. Let's kick it off then. Wrexham at home on Sunday. Clive, you're up first. Win, lose or draw?
We're going to lose. I think we'll
What will be
score.
the score?
I think we'll score, and I'm going to go 1-4.
So we're going to lose
Oh.
4-1. And who will be your hero to make sure you don't score zero?
Lewis.
Alan, you're up next. Win, lose or draw?
Draw 2-2. And I'm going Giorgio Mauricio, and I'll be shouting his name out Sunday.
You know
Nick.
it's bad when Alan is not predicting a home win. That
I
is
know.
when you know things.
You
are
know
getting
things are
bad.
going on a
was
When
gonna say
Alan is
2-1,
not predicting a home
but-
win.
I'm edging my bets. I think it'll be a 2-2.
Nick,
One of you has stolen my score, and you can guess it's not Alan.
it's
So
Clive.
I'm going to go with 4-0 Wrexham.
Oh,
Jesus.
And
Christ.
man of the match will be Jesus Christ. How'd you pick that?
Oh my God.
Oh
Ollie
my
Barnes.
God. Will Evans.
Will Evans.
I
Jim,
don't know how if you don't
it's
score.
been
but-
grim so far, but can a prediction from Jim turn the smile and turn it around?
2-1 defeat.
No, that is the answer
And,
to that.
No, I think Steve McLaughlin, man of the match.
Do you know what? All the injuries
Go on,
that we've
go
got,
on, Craig. Go
all
on.
the injuries
Give us
that
a
we've
win.
got, everyone expects Wrexham to come and pummel us.
no, I don't.
Give us a win, Craig.
Mansfield
Go on.
Town 2,
where you're wrong already.
Wrexham 0.
You
What?
can't say
The
that.
clean sheet, the first in 12.
Look,
Christy Bim.
Craig,
Christy Bim.
what we already know is that Wrexham will bring their own referee, and they will score at least one goal in added time. And McLean will break someone's
The
leg.
voice of optimism. Never heard of it, have we?
My real
Craig, the
prediction
voice
is
of optimism.
my real prediction is lose 8-1. Moving on. It's not. I'm going with the win. You never.
Good
it's
for
typical
you.
typical
I hope I'm
Mansfield to do
wrong,
it.
by the way. I hope I'm completely wrong.
Exactly.
I
Prove
do.
us wrong, indeed. The problem we are going to have, though, Nick, is lineup because Nigel Clough, they've been dropping like flies. He basically said that the 3 that went off injured on Tuesday night won't have a cat in hell's chance of starting. So that's George Williams, Elliot Hewitt, and Fraser Blake Tracy not involved. Also, you sort of add into that caveat with Bailey Cargill having a calf injury. Dave not too far away, but won't be ready for Saturday. Matty Craig missing. Obviously, Lee Gregory out as well. Reece Oates obviously not registered. He says we've got Kilgore and Callum McDonald available. What's your side going to be on Sunday as the Stags take on Wrexham? Or is it going to be here's 11 shirts, the first 11 fans that turn up?
Yeah,
Something like that. I think he'll go with a 5, but he's going to be very limited by the middle 3. The only 3 fit ones, really, unless he plays Macca there and McDonald at left wing back, is Flink, Kilgore, and Cargill, isn't it? I'd like to see Aaron Lewis at right wing back. That's where he played for Newport, and we've never played him there. I'd like to give him a go there. I don't know why he can't play there, but it'll be Akins, I would imagine, if he's not out on that right-hand side. And the rest of it probably picks itself because there isn't a lot of movement, is there? I wish we'd stop playing Vickers up front, by the way. He's not a striker, is he?
No. Get him
He
in
needs to float
midfield.
out.
Get him on the
midfield
left-hand
where
side of
Keelan used
midfield.
to
It will
play.
be absolutely
Just somewhere,
rampant.
just not up front where you've got a 6'5" centre half shoving him out of the way. Doesn't work.
I've gone to that he'll mix it up a little bit and maybe change shape due to formation, but then I remembered that Lucas Akins will just play even if he's got 2 broken ribs anyway. Obviously, Christy Pym in goal because rewind an hour. Back 4, Jordan Bowery, Aidan Flint, Alfie Kilgore and Stephen McLaughlin. Midfield 3 of Hiram Boateng, Lewis Reed and Aaron Lewis with George Maris in behind Vickers and Evans up front. But take one of those out, put Akins in and we'll play a back 5 with Akins at wing back and a back 3 of Bowery, Flint and Kilgore with Stephen McLaughlin left wing back. You can, as always, have your guesses by getting involved via the link in the description. But there's just one more thing to do. It's been don't say that, Lee. Didn't Evans start playing at left wing back? He said it in his interview when he signed. Nigel Clough, it won't have escaped his notice. There's only one more thing to do, and that is bring a little bit of light to the situation that we find ourselves in tonight.
Content loaded. Selecting game. Game selected. Players stand by. Let's get shirty.
I love that. Alan's face just went, what the hell was that?
Let's get shirty, Alan. What clue could that allude to, do you think?
Only Nick shirts.
Well, it's definitely it's not to do with
It's
shirts.
not shirt related. It's nothing to do. It's more dairy related than
But
shirt related.
it is to do with Nick. Nick on Mansfield Matters award-winning away travel, sponsored by West Yorkshire Police's speed cameras.
Safety awareness course.
Safety speed awareness courses are available. Have been having a lot of banter, and Nick has been saying for the past 3 away trips, "I've got this great quiz, lads. Let's do it on the podcast." I said, "We'll wait and see what the random generator comes up."
Not great. I never said great. I
You
said
did.
quiz.
I
said I've got a quiz.
remember. I
never said
remember
great.
the word "great," and we're going with it. And it's basically called service stations or cheese. Nick, it's over to you.
Hello.
I'll get on.
Yes, it's get back in there.
I've gone.
You. So the simple premise is that the 10 questions, as our listenership plummet, is it's either a motorway service station or it's a cheese. So it's 1 to 10. Simple as that. No bonus points. It's just a point and that's it. Right? Are we ready for question 1? Has everyone got something to write down on? Jim, are you okay?
I need to get a pen. Hang on.
I think we just say it.
Hang on.
You don't need a pen, Jim.
Let's just say it.
I'll just say it. Okay.
Just say it.
Question 1.
Nick, are you keeping score? Are you going to keep score? Or do you want me to keep score? Well, he's got a
Can
book.
you keep score? Can you keep
I'll
score?
keep score, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not made for that.
But you've got to go in. You've
Right.
got to go in this order. You've got to go Alan, Clive, Jim, then me.
Hang on. Alan, Clive, Jim, Craig.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Alan.
Yeah.
Broxton.
Broxton, I would say that's a cheese.
Clive. Broxton.
Oh, it's definitely a service station.
This is a great idea of a quiz. Craig. Oh no, sorry. Jim. Broxton.
Cheese.
Craig. Broxton.
Service station.
Do you want the answer now?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
It is indeed a delicious service station on the M90.
So that's me and Clive that get points, yes?
Correct. Yeah, it's a service station. Now, the next one, admittedly, is a bit easy because of our location, but I'm going to go through it anyway. Alan, trowel.
Service station.
Clive.
I'd love to think it was a cheese, but it's not. It's a service station.
You don't know that. You don't know that, do we? Jim?
Service station.
Craig?
I know it's a service station, but for the content, I'm going cheese.
It's a service station, Craig. It is.
There's plenty of nuance in this, isn't there?
Yeah.
Three more. Do 3 more. We're running out of time. Do 3 more.
Alan, Tunworth.
Tunworth. I would say that's a cheese.
Tunworth, Clive.
Service station.
Jim, Tunworth.
Service station.
Craig, Tunworth.
Cheese.
It is a soft cheese originating from the Duke of Wellington's estate. There you go. There you go.
Yeah,
There you go.
So me and
Bit of
Alan that
drama
time.
Yeah. So the next one is Gordano.
Service station.
Clive.
Service station near Bristol.
Yeah.
Jim. Gordano.
Service station. Service
Craig.
station.
For the content, service station.
It is a service station on the M5.
So everyone gets a point
so-
that time.
They do. The last one is
Right.
Chevington.
Hang on a minute.
Yeah.
Hang on. Alan has 3. Clive has 3. Jim's got 2. I've got 3. So it's very, very interesting here. I'm going to
Chevington.
say
Alan.
double points.
Chevington.
Chevington. I will go service station.
Clive.
I will go cheese. Then.
Chevington.
I'm going to go cheese.
Chevington. Jim.
Cheese.
Chevington, Craig.
Service station.
It is a semi-soft and mould-ripened cheese.
Ah! Who got points
There
there?
you go.
Clive
Well
and...
done.
Clive and Jim. Clive and Jim, I think.
Well, I can
Can
tell
I
you...
just say that was a very good quiz, Nick? Well done.
I
Thank
can
you.
tell
There
you-
was plenty more, Alan, for next
Yeah.
time.
At the end of
Yeah.
that, because we've at the end of that, Clive is the winner. 4 points to 3. Everyone
Well
else
done,
got
Clive.
3.
Well done.
Well
Cheese,
done.
everybody.
Thank you for playing. Motorway
Cheers,
service station
everybody.
or
Cheers.
Motorway service station. Is it a motorway? Is it cheese?
How dare
he?
Watch our readership plummet when we have quizzes like this.
More
You're
great
joking.
content like that on next week's show. Clive might have a little quiz. It could be Alan. Who knows? One of these days it might land on Jim. That is all the random generator does. It's not just me pressing a button and deciding who to go to on the spur of the moment. If you believe that, you'll believe anything. Like you'll believe that trowel is a cheese. My thanks to Alan. My thanks to Jim. Say bye, Jim.
Bye,
See you
Jim.
guys.
Jim's gone. My thanks to Alan, my thanks to Clive, my thanks to Nick as well. Very, very briefly, Nick, before I end the show, we started the show by getting changed into stag shirts. You didn't get changed, but you did show us the newest one in your collection.
One of the newest ones, 1984, 85 home shirt, blood shirt. So it was worn as a spare, but that's an old one, isn't it? It's nice.
Yes.
Be a nice shirt for us, but yeah, it's old anyway. So yeah, that's the newest one I've got. I haven't decided to get any in the auction yet, so not been that bothered.
Okay. Well, there you go. Right, Alan's off to suck on his Blackpool Rock. Clive's off to Buckey's speed.
That's not Cockney rhyming slang, is it?
No. Clive's off to
Just say before we go, he had us riding hippos in Blackpool.
Life-size one.
Four grown men riding plastic hippos.
Were you not
I was so
entertained?
disappointed I couldn't
Were
make
you,
it.
were you not entertained?
It was dreadful. What's it called? Hungry hippo, but you sit on it. And you couldn't see your own balls.
You certainly could have. You'd written it for a minute. Oh dear me. And on that joyful note, Alan's off to suck his Blackpool Rock. Clive's off to book his speed awareness course. Jim's off to fix his internet. And Nick's off to buy more shirts. I'm off to watch the EastEnders special. I wonder what will be the duff tonight. Will it be 3 points on Sunday? Will it be another defeat? Duff. I don't have the sound effects. Good night. Yes, I don't have the sound effects, but whatever happens on Sunday, it will be dramatic. Can we take some accountability? Can we take some responsibility? Can we get out of this bloody slump that we're in and turn our fortunes around and achieve the one goal which we set out to have at the start of this season? And that is staying in this division. If you're going on Tuesday night to the Clough night, come and say hello. And if you're not, we'll talk all about it on next week's show. Make sure you follow us on all things social media to find out when we're next going to be live. We are at MTFC Matters. The link that you need for podcast predictions is in the description. We'll put the end of the month table on after the Wrexham game as well. And we'll see you next week where hopefully things look a little bit brighter. Good night, and oh my God.